Good morning, VHR. This is going to be the review here for Phase 1, Phase 2 of Ori. Right now, I'm just going to cover the mechanics that are going to be present during Phase 1, and then I'll do a brief discussion about Phase 2. Phase 2 uses the map that's going to be on the strategy guide that I'm putting on Facebook and on the website, so it'll be clear when you look at the picture what we have to do during that part. But starting with Phase 1, the main thing that we want to start watching for as we go through each one of these is the Blackrock spines, which he ends up getting and turns it into Blackrock Barrage, which is basically an attack that he's going to do in a sequence of 3. Now, sometimes other spells and things like that can interrupt or be present and come through with the attack. So what we're going to have to do as a team is set up an interrupt rotation of at least 3 people with additionals to back them up in case, for example, death or just because of the other spells coming in and things like that, there could be a misinterrupt. The idea behind the barrage is that it's going to be an AoE attack that's unavoidable and it does massive damage. So it's going to be very critical to be able to do this rotation properly. Second element that we'll be addressing is the acid torrent. Now the acid torrent, this is where the 2 tanks have to make sure that they're in good communication. The acid torrent is an off-tank soak that needs to be done. So the concept is that he throws the acid, he spits it towards the range group. The range group is going to be in a tight stacking formation throughout most of the encounter during Phase 1. The OT is going to take the position where they are in between them and also the attack, and then thus use a cooldown and a damage reduction in conjunction with stacking heals and everything else. It's going to be a massive amount of damage. That's going to also put a debuff on the tank. So at that point, too, that's when the swap is going to have to occur. So Acid Torrent goes off. Off tank uses cooldowns. We have damage reductions, things of that nature to make sure that we stay alive. Then the other tank runs over, replaces tank 1, main tank. And then main tank moves into OT position for the next Acid Torrent to come through. Range is going to be very critical during this phase and throughout not only the phase, but all of Phase 1 really. To be properly stacked really, really tight. So we're going to do the symbol system like we've been doing. It's usually going to be box. And then on top of that, everybody needs to be on box. Now there's 2 additional effects, so that way we can't just stand in one place and do the attacks. That's including Wretched Blackrock and Explosive Shard. Wretched Blackrock is going to be a 5-yard AoE that's going to be casted underneath a ranged player's feet. So at this point, what you're going to see is whoever has square is going to move either north or south, east or west based on the dimensions of the room when we're inside of it, and everybody else has to move with them. So it sounds just like Imp, right? Like mines. But this time it's more of like an ooze that you're going to be standing in that does damage versus it being an explosion. So see something under your feet, whole group has to move. And what we're going to do is properly do a technique where we're going to try to keep as much of the area free as possible. Because of the way that the stage is set up, it has a number of different alleyways that can be blocked off if we don't put these down in the proper spots. So this is going to be a trial and error, but I think it's going to be something we're going to pick up really quick. Melee, guess what? You've got something too. Remember Tectus? Remember the spines? Same thing here. Explosive shards. Basically, what you're going to see with the explosive shards is that underneath you, you're going to end up having this put on you. It's going to do a knockback, and then 3 seconds later, the shard is going to explode, damaging all players within 3 yards, and it also is a stun. So what we need to do is a light spread, probably 3-yard spread, 2-yard spread, depending on the amount of melee that are present. And then you need to look for when this occurs. When it occurs, then you need to move out of it as quickly as you can. And then you want to make sure that also when you're doing this that you're not stepping into, for example, an acid torrent that might be going off at the same time. Or you have to pay attention to it so that way you don't lose your interrupts. Now, to briefly talk about Phase 2, before I show that in the next video, as far as within our movements, what we want to do with Phase 2 is that he starts with 100 mana and then eventually he runs out because he's casting these spells. And then he goes into a rage, basically starts rolling around the entire room. Now, make sure that you take time to look at the Blackrock Depository image that's on the guide, so that way you know what the stage is going to look like, and you can get an idea of where it's going to be. What we need to do during Phase 2 is get him his mana back, and he does that by eating ore. The ore is in crates, so at this point we're going to kind of try to do a light spread where everybody kind of expands throughout the room and tries to find as many of these as possible, but also avoid it. At times when he comes through, there are long pathways that are throughout this room, the way that it's divided with the walls, where basically he's a bowling ball that's going to be rolling down it, Indiana Jones style, right? you're going to want to watch out for that, because what he's going to do is he's going to come through, he's going to do a ton of damage. I don't even know if it'll kill you or not, but I would assume on normal that it'll probably end up doing quite a bit of damage, if not death, and then that'll just scale up. Once he eats 10 boxes, then he's all set. He'll go back into phase 1. Tanks will reposition him to wherever we're going to mark that with a flag, and then just adjust accordingly. Next video will be up in just a little bit. Remember to click like if you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.